Etching involves many steps, but generally refers to the application of acids and gum arabic to the printing surface. In this video, we will discuss the steps used to etch a stone. The etching process on stone accomplishes numerous chemical changes to both the image area and the non-image area. In the non-image area, the normally water-soluble gum arabic binds itself to the surface of the stone, creating what is called an adsorb, with a D. This adsorbed layer of gum arabic is no longer soluble in water and cannot be removed from the stone without some sort of energy, such as heat, acid, or physical abrasion. This gum adsorb serves to attract the water we use in printing. In the image area, our greasy drawing material reacts with the limestone and acid to create grease reservoirs in the stone, which our printing ink is attracted to. These two areas work together to create and stabilize an image on the surface of the stone. To begin etching, we will first try to determine some basic etches that can be used according to the materials used to create the drawing. Greasier drawing materials generally require a hotter etch, or an etch with more nitric acid added to the gum. Less greasy materials require less acid, or in some cases no extra acid at all. For more information on determining the proper etches for a drawing, you can reference the chart on page 155 of Tamarind Techniques for Fine Art Lithography. Once you have determined the etches you will use, apply rosin to the drawing with a soft brush. Remove the excess rosin from the stone with the brush and a soft cotton pad. Rosin serves as an acid resist on stone, protecting the image from the excessively corrosive effects of the nitric acid. Apply talc to the stone in the same manner as the rosin. Talc is used to help the water-soluble gum arabic, which would normally be repulsed by the greasy drawing material, to be drawn right up against the greasy particles. Etching depends on three basic factors: the strength of the etch, or how much acid it contains, the time it is left on the surface, and the quantity of the etch. Begin by applying the weakest etch to the entire stone using a sponge or brush, and work from weaker etches to your stronger etches. Spot etch darker areas by painting on the etch of the appropriate strength through any weaker etches that were previously applied. After the etch has been on the stone for 2 to 3 minutes, blot up the excess spot etches that were applied with a sponge or absorbent cloth, and reapply gum arabic to the entire surface. If you are unable to get through all of your etches, such as for an extremely complex image, continue etching where you left off, cooling off the stone every couple of minutes if needed, until you have hit all of the image area that needs spot etching. Depending on the strength of your etches, you may need to repeat this entire sequence to build up weaker etches using reapplications. This capitalizes on the time aspect of etching to increase the cumulative strength of the etch, while still using a safer, weaker etch. When you have applied all of your spot etches, it is a good idea to blot off most of the excess etches before applying fresh gum to the entire surface. Work this around with a sponge to cool all of your spot etches, as well as to loosen up any etches that may have dried during the etching process. Remove the excess gum, leaving a thin film on the stone. Using folded cheesecloth, buff the gum into the stone. Begin by going around the edges, then quickly buff in one direction using parallel strokes. Buff quickly in the opposite direction, again using parallel strokes, and then switch to a fresh cheesecloth. Once again, if you have time before the gum dries, buff quickly in both directions. Refold your cheesecloth to a fresh side, or grab a new cheesecloth and finish by buffing tightly in a circular motion over the image area. Avoid any streaks in the gum, especially over the image area, as this will prevent a smooth washout later. The drawing material softens in the presence of the etches, and in some areas of the drawing may smear slightly when buffing in. This is usually not an issue. Your first etch is now complete. Allow the stone to rest for at least 1 hour before proceeding. Our next step is to wash out the drawing material. The image should wash out fairly easily if it was etched correctly, and if you performed a good buff-in. Sometimes you might choose to reapply gum arabic and buff it in before washing out the drawing material. Apply lithotripsy to the stone and gently begin to remove the drawing material using a soft cloth. Do not scrub the image, as this may disturb the gum. Also beware of any water near the stone or on your rags, as this will dissolve your gum mask. Allow the solvents to do their job, reapplying more lithotripsy as necessary and moving to progressively cleaner rags as the image is removed. Once the drawing material has been completely removed, you should see a faint ghost in the stone where the image was. Next, use a rag to buff in a thin layer of asphaltum over the image area. Ensure the asphaltum layer is dry before wetting the borders of the stone with a rag soaked in water. Use the water to remove the excess gum and asphaltum outside of your image before going quickly over the image area with your wet rag. Leaving the water on too long at this point can burn your image and make it reluctant to roll up, so work quickly. Use a set of dirty sponges to achieve a thin film of water, and then begin rolling up the image with a leather roller and black ink. Look for any spots that may still retain a slight brownish tint or look thin, and add ink to those areas as needed. Once the image is rolled up, fan dry the stone and reevaluate your etching. Apply rosin and talc as before and apply your etches for a second time, adjusting for how the image rolled up. If areas rolled up too dark, you may not have etched them with enough acid, used too greasy of an ink, or have had too much ink on your slab. If an area rolled up too light, you may have used too much acid, needed more grease in your ink, or have used too little ink in the roll-up process. For areas that rolled up too dark, for example, we might slightly increase the amount of acid we use in the etch. If the image rolled up well, you can use the same etches, or go slightly weaker. When you're done with your second etch, apply fresh gum to your stone and buff in just as you did before. 2 etches are usually sufficient for stabilizing an image on a stone, but some images may require 3 or more etches before they will become stable enough to print.